It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Margie K, and this is Onyx News. We're here every Friday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. Thank you for joining me this evening. I do want to remind you to go ahead and go to onyxnetwork.com and check out our 2025 calendar. And we have added some weird, real official national holidays that you won't believe. So it's a fun calendar, and go ahead, check that out, along with everything else we've got going at the network, including workshops coming in 2025, a list of events all over the world. If you have an event you'd like to get listed, just send it to us through the website, and we'll get that on at no charge. And we've just got all sorts of things happening at the network that you need to know about, including our magazine. So Onyx Magazine is also something that you want to get. We have a blog. We have a newsletter for members. We have everything you can think of that a network should have. So thank you for joining me this evening. And tonight, my special guest is Eesha Patel. She is a Galactic Contact Expert and representative to the Galactic Federation and the Ashtar Command. A profound awakening in 2015 set Eesha on a journey of exploring consciousness. The results have been nothing short of phenomenal, with spontaneous healing and awakenings being the norm in her world. Her work has been featured in prominent media. Eesha is a trailblazer and thought leader in the field of galactic consciousness. Her work has received endorsement from world-class researchers in UFO and UAPs, including Professor Avi Loeb. And without further ado, welcome to the program, Eesha.
Hi, Margie. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me. I was so thrilled to know about you and to meet you. We've got a lot in common, I can tell, so this is going to be an interesting interview. Namely, we're calling this the 1111 Gateway, so we're going to hear all about that. But 1111 is especially interesting to me. In 2021, I started noticing it everywhere, on clocks everywhere. If I just happened to look to see what the time was, it was 1111, day or night. I got motel rooms, hotel rooms, 1111, and an airline flight. I remember one time I took an airline and the flight number was 1111. And when I got there, my room number was 1111. I'm like, what is going on? So I had to do a deep dive into it. How did you become interested in 1111?
Much like you, Margie, it was very much about just the experiential aspect of it. I started seeing 1111 pretty much as a kid. So I must have been maybe 12, 13, maybe even younger. I can't remember now, but I just remember seeing it everywhere, and often enough that I wanted to go look up about what's actually all about. So I went on the internet back then. So we're talking almost 20 years ago, to see if there was anything about the 1111 Gateway. And when I found out that I wasn't the only one seeing it, I thought, okay, there must be something more to it. So it took me quite a number of years to sort of recognize that the 1111 Gateway is all about the code to awakening, and it's a gateway code. I mean, there are lots of different codes that we have. Like, for example, Margie, nowadays I see 777. That's the number, the flow that I'm currently in. But earlier on in the awakening phase, it was very much about 1111. And so I'd be driving down the street and I would see 111 on car plates. I'd see 1111 on random places that I shouldn't be seeing it. So much like yourself, it was just everywhere.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are experiencing the same thing with different number sets. It might be 1111. A lot of times they'll look at their clock and it's 222, 333, etc. And some people have, they're kind of afraid of it. Is there any reason to be afraid of this?
I think it just depends on how you perceive the connection to it. If there's any fear around it, it's coming from potentially the idea of stepping into something that's new or unknown, or having to change the paradigm of the way that you think about the world. To me, it was never a scary thing. If anything, it was pretty cool. I thought, oh, that's fascinating. Maybe there is something more to the universe. Maybe there is some sort of grand design or some message that I'm supposed to receive. So I personally never felt any fear, but I would say to anyone who might be a bit freaked out by it to really just recognize that it's a sign. It's like anything. It's the universe nudging you in a direction and saying, hey, pay attention to this. Wake up, look up, see what's going on in the world around you, because we get so caught up as humans in the human experience. You're walking down the street and what are you thinking of? You're thinking of what you ate for breakfast, what you're about to do that day, the things that are stressing you out. We don't even notice sometimes the world around us. You can walk through an entire hike in a forest and barely notice the trees if you're so in your head. So I think one of the things about 1111 is it gets you to stop and it gets you to think and it gets you to recognize that maybe there's a greater perspective that we can take on from receiving those signs and synchronicities.
Absolutely. And now you had a profound awakening in 2015 that set you on this journey of exploring consciousness. What exactly happened?
In 2015, I was going through already sort of a spiritual awakening of my own, but there was a very distinct moment where everything shifted. Just to contextualize a little bit, I started practicing the Merkaba light body activation quite a number of years ago, probably about 2 years before the awakening happened for me. But in 2015, I separated from my then partner, and then I moved back in with my parents. I changed my career. All of this happened in a very short amount of time. And the night that I woke up after deciding, okay, this relationship isn't right, it's time to move on, after having that experience, it was about just this expansion that occurred inside of me. And I remember waking up the next morning, walking outside and thinking, okay, like it's as if the colors are brighter, the sounds are more melodic, like everything had just expanded inside of me. And so that was the moment of awakening. And the weeks that followed after that, things moved quite rapidly. So it was really just about that listening and tuning into that inner guidance and really, really stepping into that. And one of the practical sort of manifestations of that was I just put it out there to the world and I said, look, I'm ready to be in service. I don't know what's going on. My life is falling apart right now, but I'm ready to step up and I'm ready to serve. And that very same night is when I had my first contact experience. So that was quite profound for me because it was a channeling experience. They said they were a council of light. I later realized they were Arcturians, and they started sharing these messages, and so that all happened within a short period of time. And then, one contact led to another. The very first one actually was a group of mind elders, and then it was a council of light, and then it was the Pleiadians. And so it kind of snowballed from there to where I am today, where I've now connected with over 20 different galactic races and also other realms, angelic and elemental, and there's just so much to explore out there. But it all started with that one moment where I followed that synchronicity. And by seeing those 1111s, by tuning into the frequency, by being open to receive and making that declaration, all of those things led to this spontaneous channeling, which then unfolded the next very big pathway that unfolded after that.
It's almost like the number 1111 is your wake-up call and letting you know that there's a lot more out there than your little complicated, distracted life. That's kind of how I interpret it.
Yeah.
So as far as the contact goes, of course, I have my methods. What is your method for doing that? Do you go into a deep meditation? Do you hear the voices? Do you see things? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So there's two methods that have worked really, really well for me. One is the one that I started out with, and that was the Merkaba light body activation that I started practicing in my early 20s. So when I was activating my Merkaba light body, I actually did it because I thought it was going to help me expand my frequency, but also just protect myself, which was the main reason that I was doing it. And just to add a little extra context there, it was because I had a lot of weird sort of paranormal experiences growing up and things that were happening in the house. So because of that, that's when I decided to do the Merkaba light body activation technique. And I sat with a mentor. She taught me how to do it, and I practiced this every day. That's what initially led to having those channeling experiences, because it opened me up so much to it that it's just like my energy field was available for that. But the way that I do contact now, I actually do a practice called the inner heart meditation technique, which is now something that I teach to my students as well. And that's where you drop into your heart space, which I've now realized there's an entire world of consciousness that's waiting for you in your heart. And when you can drop into that and you tune into your heart frequency, that's the mechanism by which we can initiate contact and to become aware of the beings and all the different frequencies that are available to us.
Yes, and their frequency is all around us. I see frequencies, so I completely understand where you're coming from on this. I think it's just a matter of awareness and getting people to understand what frequency is and how everything is so connected. You said something a minute ago about the paranormal activity that was happening around you. Can we go into a little bit of that? What was going on?
So when I was a kid, we used to have some strange experiences in the house that we grew up in. So we just moved to Australia, and we lived in this, I think it must be like, 3-bedroom standard family home. And there was this old lady that would just keep appearing at the foot of my bed. Like I would see her, I would sense her. I just knew there was a lady there. And I didn't know if she passed away there or something. I did hear some story that somebody might have passed away in the house, like some elderly sort of person. There was nothing like overly scary about it, in the sense that there was like she wasn't trying to attack or there was nothing malevolent about it, but she was just there and I was aware of her presence. And so that kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I remember in my towards the end of my primary schooling years, because I had this awareness, I wasn't able to sleep at night. So I'd have to have a nightlight on, or I would have my brother in the room with me. I used to just start freaking out about some of these things. So those were little things that occurred over quite a number of years. And then when we moved house, there was some other experiences that started happening. Like, for example, I would touch lights and they would just blow. Although that I realize now was just me being completely ungrounded in my own energy. So when I originally went to go see this spiritual mentor, it was because all of this strange stuff was happening and I didn't know how to explain it. And so she said, look, let me teach you this meditation practice. It'll help you just, balance everything out and protect yourself. And so that's why I did it. But yeah, ironically, it then also opened me up to more of that stuff. So, but in a safe way. So I guess, at least it was better than me just having these random experiences and getting freaked out by it.
So that makes you wonder if there are actually any coincidences, or if it's more synchronistic, if perhaps your early experiences have led you gradually to this other path. This consciousness.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think there's any coincidence at all these days. When I look back on the history of my life and how I got to where I am, I see how every piece just folds so perfectly in place. I mean, some of this stuff, you can't even make this stuff up, because Like, for example, when I was 13, 14 years old, and this was around the time I just started using my dad's Windows 95, it was like this old sort of laptop. And I used to go on there, and I used to go on Wikipedia, right? And they have this function on Wikipedia, which is called Wiki Random. I'm pretty sure they still have it. So you click Wiki Random, and it brings you any article in their database. And, back then, there were way, way less articles on Wikipedia than what you have now, like way less. And the stuff that just like randomly, not so randomly, started popping up in my field was stuff about Area 51, Edgar Casey, the Bermuda Triangle, mysteries of the Earth. I'm like, I look back on this now and I think that's just wild. Like, out of all the stuff that I could have been reading up about, this was the stuff that was coming to me. And so I was being sent down these rabbit holes around the age of 14 years old.
Yeah.
That's not a coincidence.
No, it's not. No. Yeah, you were definitely being sent. That's for sure. Now, you've contacted what, 20 unique races now?
At least, yeah. I mean, once I learned the methodology to connect, it became very easy to make contact with anyone, because it's the frequency aspect of that. Like, for example, I also have my own podcast, First Contact, and sometimes when people come on my show and I interview guests, I will see that they have a particular connection with a particular being. And even if it's a race that I haven't met before or a being who I haven't connected with before, I can just connect straight away, because it's just, once you have the technique, the method to initiate that contact or to pick up on that frequency, it applies universally. And that's one really cool thing I learned about the inner heart practice, and why I switched from doing the Merkaba activations to the inner heart practice, which they still work hand in hand. But what the inner heart did was it gave me a deeper level of discernment of the actual frequencies I was connecting with. So the Merkaba was more like, it opened me up to whatever was out there. So it was, anyone that wanted to connect with me could connect with me. Whereas once I dropped into that heart space at a deeper level, now it's like, any frequency that comes into my awareness, I know who it is. I get a very direct contact. I can initiate the contact more clearly as well. So it really grounded in that practice, going from being open and having random experiences to, okay, now I can do this in a much more direct and almost like intentional sort of way.
Mm-hmm. When you're having contact with any one of these different races, do you see what they look like?
Sometimes some of them will show me a visual. I am quite a visual person anyway. So even when I do my meditations and stuff, I do get quite strong visuals. So yeah, sometimes I'll see them. Sometimes I'll hear their name. Sometimes I'll get a sense of their frequency. One of the first things that I typically get is I get the color of their energy signature. So for example, if it's an Arcturian, there's a very specific blue energy that they come with. So I know, okay, I'm dealing with Arcturians. If it's Archangel Michael, again, very specific blue frequency. Lots of different beings out there have their very specific color frequencies. And then from there, I can tune in to a more refined, specific being. I find that a lot of people, when they first start channeling, they tend to get more of a collective, like Arcturians as a collective or Pleiadians as a collective. But then as you refine down, you get a very specific being from the Arcturian race, or a very specific being from the Pleiadian race. So that's when you're tuning in to that individual soul level versus the more collective level that most people start off at.
Have you ever done channeling where you would allow one of these beings to enter your physical body?
Channeling was how I first started. So when I had that experience in 2015, first with the Mind Elders that came through, then the Arcturians and the Pleiadians, it was definitely more of a channeling experience. But since I've evolved in my practice, I no longer channel in that way, because what they've said to me is that's not even their preferred way of making contact. So again, where this heart meditation really, really helped me was to learn to maintain that contact and maintain that connection, but without having to get me out of the way. Because one of the mechanisms of channeling is you get out of the way, right? And then the energy enters in your being. But Yeah, they've said to me many times over the last few years that there's a sovereignty within the human body and the field that we have around us. And so when you just get yourself out of the way like that and you're letting something in, you're also leaving yourself open to maybe other things getting in. So it takes a bit of practice to really refine that frequency and make sure you're only connecting with the energies that you want to connect with. And the preferred method for contact is actually to not do that at all. It's to stay in your own body, be completely lucid, completely aware of the experience. And it's like having a conversation, much like you and I having a conversation. So that's the preferred way to have contact. And they say that any being who's of a higher vibration will prefer that if you can maintain a conversation in that state, that's the way that they'd want to be doing it.
Now, there was a reason I asked you that, and it's because I'm seeing different colors and different energies over your face, not in your body, but over your face. So to me, that's showing me that there's multiple contact, and they seem to be engaged in this conversation. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, of course they are. Every time I do an interview, every time I teach, every time I present something, my team are always with me. And, as and when needed, I will relay messages from them if that wants to happen. But it's not like the channeling that I used to do. There's a very different experience between the trance channeling that I used to do, where I would completely check out and I wouldn't even remember what I was saying. I'd have to record myself so that I could then make sense of it, versus now where it's very much like a team effort, like we're all here together, and then the different beings will come through and speak as and when needed. But I'm very present in the conversation. I know exactly who's there, what message is coming through. So there's a lot more awareness around that. So it's not surprising that you're picking up. I mean, a lot of readers, mediums, have said to me that they often see quite a large team around me, and I'm very aware of that team, who they are, and the role that they're playing with me as well right now.
Do they have any messages for the public right now? Are there any big changes coming that we should be aware of?
I specifically have an Andromedan being who wants to speak, which, Andromedans I do connect with from time to time, but not as often as, say, Arcturians, who I'm very connected with, or Pleiadians or Lyrians. So yeah, we do have an Andromedan being, beautiful, slightly more in the masculine spectrum today. I feel like it's specifically for you, Margie, and the message that he has for you is that you're on the right track. And he says that he wants you to pay more attention to the signs and the symbols, and also to acknowledge how far you've come. He's saying that sometimes you doubt yourself in some of the things that are coming through and the pathway and the next steps. And he says that as 2025 is opening up, allow yourself to be pleasantly surprised by what's unfolding for you, especially in the first couple of months of the year. So there's a little bit of good news for you.
That is good news. I appreciate that. Tell him thank you.
You're welcome. I'm happy to do a message for the collective as well, if there's anything that wants to come through.
That would be awesome. Absolutely. We've got a couple of minutes until the break. How long from the time of your awakening, realizing that there's a lot more out there, did it take you to really get a handle on this and become comfortable enough to share it with other people?
I think, it took me at least a good year or so to really understand what's going on. Because, just to contextualize this again, like I was in my early 20s, I was going to uni, I had a partner, I had a job, I was just, doing all of that. And it was great. I mean, I thought I had my life all sorted. I was actually pretty happy until I realized I wasn't, which is a whole different story. But that's why the relationship ended. And then when I stepped into my true purpose, I realized, okay, this is what I was born for. I'm actually here to help serve and to teach and to help people awaken. And at first it really felt like an impossible task. I mean, I had a glimpse of that a couple of years before that, and I just shut it down. I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that, you know. So yeah, I think it took me a good year or so afterwards to really fully understand that this is my purpose and to embrace it. And to be honest, I think I'm still doing it because the role changes over time as well. So I think it's just an evolution that continues to unfold.
It sure does. And it never ends. Okay, we are up on a break. We'll be back after these short messages.
While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UnX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com. Race Hobbs here for the UnX Network as we present a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. They apply Cathara energy work with all of their plants and products. All of their products are made in small batches and third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farms Topical Salve. It comes in 1 ounce and half-ounce sizes made with all natural ingredients. And from now until January 2nd, use promo code KUNX Holiday for an additional 15% off all CBD products. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UnX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com. Promo code KUNX Holiday.
And we're back. I'm Margie K, and this is UnX News. We are on the UnX KUNX Digital Broadcasting Network. And my guest this evening is Eesha Patel. Ooh, we're talking about 11/11 and some galactic contacts and the gateway. So you are you're the founder of Origin Activation. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so Origin Activation is my healing modality that I've created in quite a number of years ago, actually. And essentially, it teaches people how to connect into their heart space and then to facilitate healing. And it's a certification training. Although, to be honest, as we move into 2025, we are phasing that program out, and we're going to be switching it up for a Galactic Ambassador training as we move into more of a contact-related focus with the general collective evolution. So it's really moving away from healing, which I think a lot of people have been focused on for the last few years, into going into let's just focus on open contact, peaceful contact, and shifting from a personal focus to a more collective focus.
Yeah, I have noticed in the readings that I do for people that there are a lot of ETs around them now. Whereas 3 years ago, it probably wasn't that way. This has been kind of recent since 2021. And the people I'm seeing are of a higher frequency, a higher level of consciousness, and they're coming in for guidance. They're not coming in so much for healing, just like what you said. I think it's probably a worldwide phenomenon. But with that in mind, a lot of people feel like, and have for some time, that there was some really big event that everyone was going to know about. And so I have an opinion about that, but I want to ask what your opinion is. And also, is it related to all of these weird UFO and drone sightings around the world right now?
Yeah. So a couple of things that I'm quite strongly opinionated on there. One of them is that the big event is we're already in the event. So this is it. It's already happening. It's the awakening. It's the ascension. That is the grand event. You know, there will be moments within that have more of a, I guess, a collective impact. And we're yet to see a couple of those larger scale moments. But the grand event is the awakening. So it's almost like a cosmic joke. We're in it. You know, it's like with a fish in water, like it's already there. So that's the experience. As far as the drones go, so the guidance that I received from Star Family was actually very clear to not focus in on that. And so, you know, as these things happen, I see the media pick up certain things, and I look at it and I see it's just another big distraction. And we've seen many of those distractions over the years. There was stuff that happened in Miami. There's been those balloons in Montana, I think last year, and there's a number of things like that where I've tuned in and go, nah, nothing to see here. That's why I haven't really reported about it on my pages. I'm not talking about it. To me, it just doesn't feel like it's worth my time and energy. And also, you know, from a frequency perspective, when I tune into certain things, I can tell if there's a high energy or whether there's something that we shouldn't be adding energy into. And this is a really important point to make, is every time we think about something, talk about something, bring our focus into something, what's happening is energy goes into that event. And so when something is not of a high vibration, I'm very mindful to just bring my energy back in and say, nope, not doing that. And so I did tune in not too long ago, and it was a very strong guidance to don't go there, don't put your energy there. So then I say, well, where can I shift my energy to then? What is the maybe high vibrational element to focus in on? And what the guidance that I got was just to focus in with this divine miracle that we're moving into the new year as we close off December. There's some beautiful Christ energies coming in right now as well. I mean, Christmas is always a heightened time to focus on the Christ consciousness. So basically, instead of focusing on drones, let's shift the awareness back to Christ consciousness and moving into the new year with a really high vibration, because that's the co-creation that we're part of. We are creating how we move into 2025, and I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah, that's right. There's a shift annually that is palpable. You can feel this shift in energy. What do you think 2025 is all about?
So 2025 is a 9-year, which means it's all about the higher Trinity. And the higher Trinity is a beautiful energy to be in. I think, you know, people are going to experience 2025 in different ways, depending on where the individual focuses are as well. But I see 2025 as beautiful, light, wonderful. If we can tune into that higher spectrum of frequency that's available, it's a very positive year, especially in terms of creation energies. Because the Trinity, you know, if we think about, for example, divine feminine, divine masculine, divine child is one of the most common trinities. It's always about, it's that energy of 1 + 1 = 3. So there's a creation part in that comes forward. And as we step into that, the 9-year is about the Trinity. And it's also about that completion. It's like things feel resolved. Things feel very much like, oh, yes, this is it. Like I've landed here. It's beautiful. It's like everything, all the loose ends get tied up, you know? So that's what I feel we're moving into. So I feel very hopeful about next year. I think there's going to be some really positive events happening. And I just hope that the collective vibration is tuning into the positive element of that, because we are co-creating those higher trinities in any given moment.
Yeah, and 9 was a very special number according to Tesla as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's not just the 9 next year, it's also the 27, because 9 is 3 by 3 is 9, right? But if you multiply that by 3 again, you actually get 27. And the biggest gateway of next year is not actually on the 9/9, it's the 27th of September. That's when we're going to see the most heightened energies, because it's not the Trinity, it's the higher Trinity, which is the 27/9.
Ah, okay. Interesting. Have to look into that. So you're I was going to ask you. Now I have lost my thought. Is there a way that, or in your teachings, do you teach people how to connect with their galactic family?
Oh, absolutely. That's a big part of the work that I'm doing now. So I have a program starting up next year, which is called the Inner Heart Journey. And in the Inner Heart Journey, that's basically what we teach. It's a 12-week program. It's an intensive course that's designed to get people connected to the higher self, get people connected into their heart space. And from there, there's an unfolding into the galactic contact side of things as well.
Is that something that's available online?
Yeah, we do have introductory courses that we run from time to time. So we have our next intro course, which is it's like a 5-day taster. You can come in, you can try it out. It's fairly low cost. And so that one we have coming up from the 6th to the 10th of January. It's a really great way to start the year. If your goal for the new year is to bring your spiritual practice to the next level, this is a great way to elevate. The taster event is called How to Elevate Your Life and Business to 5D Consciousness. It is for leaders of the new earth. It's for people who are really focusing on stepping up, helping others. But also, if you don't have a business, the practices you'll learn will apply to your general life as well. And where to get that is you go to journey.eeshapatel.com. That's the link for the 5-day taster event. And then from there, you can choose to jump into the longer 12-week program that we have running as well.
Awesome. And that starts in January?
Yeah, the 6th of January is our next intake. It's a live event, so 6th to the 10th of January. People can jump in and kickstart the new year in awesome high vibes.
That sounds awesome. How long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching pretty much since 2015. So that's where the journey, it accelerated quite quickly, because I went from having my first channeling experience, which was around about probably July 2015, to hosting my very first sacred geometry activation event in August that same year. So, coming back to this question of the healing and the origin activation, one of the first things that they shared with me was the Arcturians shared with me sacred geometries, galactic geometries that are designed to heal and uplift the frequency and to activate the DNA. So when I received these codings, I basically got the message, hey, you need to go and share these with people. And so within a matter of weeks, I organized my first event. And I didn't even know if they were going to work. I mean, I thought, geez, if nothing happens, I'll give them their money back and off they go, So I just thought I'd try it out. And I just, got a room and I brought some people in. We had 7 people attend this event. And 3 people in the room saw an Arcturian starship at my very first event. So clearly, whatever these codes were, they were working and they were doing what they supposedly were supposed to do. And so, I just kept running these events. I held another event a couple of months after that. And again, these things just started happening. Like the second event that I ran, all I did was I put it on Facebook and I said, I'm running this thing. And I ended up with a full house at my second event with no marketing, nothing, It was just very... it was just really kind of it was like it was meant to be. That's the feeling. Like I did it, I put it out there, it was meant to be. And so it's a really beautiful experience to have that. And that's what kind of nudged me into then building a business, which that's a whole other journey that would take a whole session to go through. But basically where I am now from that is I've been teaching for almost 10 years now, and I've really refined a practice in a way that people aren't going to take the years and years that it took me to figure it out. In 12 weeks, people can really move the needle on their spiritual awakening and get there quite quickly with some simple daily practices.
Awesome. That sounds awesome. And I want to thank Jamie Voslop for joining us in the room, because she's got some super high energy she's bringing in with us.
Yeah.
And Jamie's the one who introduced me to you. So thank you so much, Jamie. Appreciate that. Now, you talked earlier about spontaneous healing. Have you experienced that yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I've experienced it on myself and also with my students as well. And that's really where Origin Activation came about, because when I first connected with the Arcturians are master healers in the universe. I mean, they've really just nailed all things healing. They've got these amazing technologies. They use geometries, light, sound, frequency, these healing beds. So I've seen all of that when I visit the Arcturian ships and I go check out what they're doing. And so the Arcturians shared with me some of those principles, philosophies, and also some of their technologies as well. And so, that's what I started off sharing. I started sharing off the codes. I started with sharing the some of the practices that they were giving me. And I remember doing this session on a client. This was one of my very, very first clients way back when. I had no idea what I was doing, but I followed the guidance. And I remember picking up her soul. It was like I picked up this soul light from her body, did some galactic magic on it, put it back, and it completely changed her life. And so after that, I started having more and more clients that were coming to me. I started, I learned Reiki at some point because I thought, better go learn Reiki to see what it's all about. So I did my Reiki qualification. But all the time, I was really mostly working with those galactic frequencies that were coming through. And as I was acting the DNAs and really facilitating that space for them, people would have spontaneous healings. And one of the most profound ones that I remember very early on was a lady who I didn't even know. She was about to go into surgery a few days after she came to one of my group classes. And then next thing I know, she went in and the pre-surgery appointment, and they said that she didn't need the surgery anymore. So she attributed it to the session that she had, because during the session that she came for, she could feel that her sacral chakra was being worked on. The surgery was related to her cervix. And so, she just didn't need the surgery anymore. And so when I saw that, I thought, oh my God, like this, it really expanded the possibility of what we're able to do with frequency and energy. And from that moment on, because I realized it was possible, I then started seeing more and more of those spontaneous healings. And, pneumonia is suddenly gone, and people's back pain is suddenly gone. Arthritis is suddenly gone. So I started seeing a lot of that. And so I was in that healing space for quite a number of years. I created the certification around it. So I started training people on how to do this work as well. But then I figured, instead of doing the healing on them, why don't I just teach them to connect with the galactic themselves, and then they can do it. So that's kind of where we're moving now, is moving out of the healing certification into more of the just connect for yourself. And if that leads to healing, great, but it's more about the connection piece now.
Yeah, that's the messages I'm getting as well. Teach people how to do it themselves and let them.
Teach man to fish, right?
Yeah, exactly. Really. Now I grabbed this off of your Facebook, November 11th, 2024. What was this about?
This was actually an amazing 11/11 Gateway event that we ran. I mean, that was a one-time thing. You probably won't find anything at that link now. But I've run 11/11 Gateways for quite a number of years. And so this one was particularly special because it was the biggest event that I'd ever run. And we actually did 3 full days of ongoing activations and experiences. And the cool thing about that event was I said to all of the speakers, I said, there's no talking, there's no interviews, there's no seminars. It's all frequency. So every single session that we did was a meditation, activation, experiential kind of gift. And I mean, they were so generous. Every facilitator was so generous in bringing this experience to us. And it was a very, very uplifting moment in time for all of us.
I can see that you reached a lot of people doing that.
Oh, we did,
I just see arms reaching out everywhere. And all
I think, I mean, I knew of at least 2,000 that signed up. There may have been more ripple effect from that, but at least a couple thousand, I would say, attended the event.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely doing your job, your assignment. Let's put it that way. Now you have a podcast called First Contact. How long have you been doing that?
Yeah, First Contact, we just started last year. That was one of my pivots in my career when I got told to, again, move away from the healing and focus more on the contact side of things. And so we've interviewed some incredible guests on our show, like Avi Loeb. We've had who has Dr. Sean Hargens. Actually, I've interviewed Jamie recently as well. Love to have you on, Margie, as well. You're welcome to come on First Contact. And it's bringing together all the thought leaders. Alan Steinfeld has been on there. And just it's really about this philosophy around taking contact into our own hands. There's a lot of stuff out there about disclosure and UFOs and UAPs. And so I think it's the where we stand in the positioning of our podcast is that First Contact is for everyone. First Contact happens in your backyard. First Contact isn't just for special people. It's actually for every human who wants to go out there and they want to reconnect to their star family. They can listen to the podcast, get inspired, get ideas. And it's just about opening that conversation up amongst all the leaders in that field.
Wonderful. I will put your podcast on our list. We're starting a new directory on the Unnext Network website where we are including podcasts from everywhere, not necessarily being aired on the Unnext Network, but if there's something people need to know about, we put it up. So I'd love to put a link for you there.
I love that. Thanks.
So as far as the average person who's waking up and they want to have contact, how long from the time they make that decision until they actually make contact with their star family?
This question, I do get asked this quite a lot because people come to me, oh, when is it going to happen for me? And I say, well, it's that how long is a piece of string? For me, it happened almost instantly. And actually, I wasn't even trying to connect with the Galactics. I just said I'm available to be in service, and that's what it looked like for me. So I didn't even really know anything about Arcturians or Pleiadians or anything at the time that I had my first channeling experience. So it can happen in just a moment. But for some people, it's going to happen in the moment that's perfect for you. And one thing that I have realized over time is they're going to wait until you're truly ready. And you can say you're ready, but it's when your frequency is truly able to receive and be in that space of contact, because they're very, very respectful of the human journey as well. And that's one thing I love about the Arcturians, Pleiadians, Andromedans, most of the races. They'll be very respectful of that. And so even if you stand out there and say, hey, I'm ready, please hurry up, make contact, they're going to tune into your frequency and say, well, is this person really ready? Are they really there? Or do they still have layers that are needing to be dissolved? And so one of the things that you can do is, in the process of setting that intention, is keep focusing on your heart, keep removing those layers of the ego, having that self-awareness. And when it's your time, it will happen. One thing that I read very, very early on someone else's blog was the spiritual awakening will happen when it happens. What you can do is you can set the environment for that. You can do your daily meditations. You can have a disciplined practice. You can eat healthy foods. You can self-nurture. You can self-love. You can do your affirmations, whatever's going to support that environment. But the awakening will happen when the awakening happens. That's one thing that only your soul knows. And when it's time, it will happen for you.
I think that's an excellent answer and a fantastic way to look at it. There are some people in the world who are alone, and I see this a lot. They feel like there's a reason that they're alone, but they can't get a grasp on it. Do you think that perhaps things are set up that way so that they can have the time to work on themselves, to work within and set up that environment to raise their level of consciousness?
One thing I really have to say here is doing spiritual work is a privilege. It is. It's not something that everyone on the planet is able to do depending on their situation, but it is something that you can prioritize in the way that feels right for you. So, let's get really practical for a second. If somebody is a single mom who's working 3 jobs, they're not going to find an hour in their day to meditate. It's just, it's unrealistic to even ask that. Like, first of all, put food on the table, get a roof above your house, and then think about meditation. I think there's a practical element to that. But there's little things that you can do day to day that don't require such a big effort, that don't require such a big energy. And sometimes it's as simple as just a 30 seconds of breath. You're sitting at your desk at your job. for 30 seconds, you can breathe into your heart and you can bring your awareness to that inner heart star. You can bring your awareness to that starlight. That's something that I think every single person on the planet can have time to do. Whether you're alone, whether you're single, whether you're in a really crazy job, you can take 30 seconds a day to do that. So, sometimes I feel like being able to sit in there for hours on a time, that's a luxury that not everybody gets access to. I mean, if you can go to India and do the whole, eat, pray, love journey or whatever, or go to Bali, then great, do that if you can do that. But if you can't, let's bring it back to what you can do. And I want to know that spirituality is available, it's accessible to everyone with the tiniest little intentions, the tiniest little actions that every single person can do. Can you spend 30 seconds of your time going out into the night sky and just looking at the stars and just saying hi, just saying hello to star family? Can you do that as you breathe into your heart? Those little moments stack up. So no matter where you are on your journey, no matter what situation you're in, there is something that you can do today just to get you started. We're not asking for perfection. We're not asking for you to drop everything and suddenly become a monk in the Himalayas. All I'm saying is make one little change today. 30 seconds of your day, 2 minutes of your day, 5 minutes of your day. And those little things over a month, over 6 months, over 2 years, they will stack up and you'll start to see those experiences then come through into your life.
That's really good advice. Are there any particular star family beings that stand out to you as being the most active with our Earth family?
There are some races that are a little bit more connected with more humans. Like Arcturians have a lot to do with us. The Galactic Federation in general have a lot to do with us. They're very involved in the ascension. Pleiadians, the ones that are the most common, like that, people have connected with, and it makes sense because they're the most active in terms of trying to connect with people. So they're the ones that are the most well known as well. But there are lots of other races as well, and sometimes I connect with one that's not very common, but it's connected to a very specific person or someone who has that connection, and they've come into this Earth ascension, and they might have a connection with a being who's not even from this galaxy. So I think there's a lot of interest, a lot of focus from many different star beings, but the ones that have the most connection with us are the ones that we already know about the most as well.
Are there any galactic beings you've come in contact with that don't look humanoid, that might look like something completely different?
Yeah, I have. One of my favorites is they're in their IC443 constellation, which is the jellyfish constellation, and they come through as these beautiful sort of like pink violet sort of jellyfish beings. And the reason why I have such a strong connection with them is because one of those beings is my soul aspect. So sometimes we have specific soul aspects that are having these experiences, and so sometimes I just tune into myself floating in this it's hard to even describe. It's like the whole planet is watery, the whole atmosphere is more watery, and so I'm just floating around in this watery atmosphere on this planet in this part of the galaxy. And so that's probably one of my strongest non-human connections that I have.
That's pretty cool. That's very, very different.
It's a lot of my favorites. I have a few orbs and photos that I've taken over the years with this as well. And it's a wonderful energy to connect in with.
In your with your contacts, have they given you any indication of how many intelligent races there are just in our galaxy?
I've asked this question before, and I've never been able to get an exact number because it just feels so vast. It's like how many grains of sand are there on the beach? Like I feel like I can't even fathom it. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. And it's also hard to quantify because of the fact that when we say in this galaxy, are we talking about the 3D galaxy? Because You know, like if we go to 3D Earth and we go to say, you know, around Arcturus, we're not going to really find anything. You know, I mean, most of these beings are, well, I'd say all of these beings are not really extraterrestrial. They're interdimensional.
Yeah.
And so when you take into account all the dimensions, very hard to quantify how many beings are in this galaxy.
Yeah, it's probably unmeasurable.
Yeah,
I would expect. Yeah, I kind of get the same feelings. Okay, so how do people get in touch with you and your podcast and your and seminars that you have coming up in January?
Yeah, so the best place to go is eeshapatel.com. That's EESHAPATEL.com. You can find my show on there. And also if you go to journey.eeshapatel.com is where you'll find the link for this taster event that we have coming up in January. We're doing a very special promotion for this one. The tickets usually are $97, but they're only $47 if you sign up before the end of the year. So I would encourage you to head over to that link and join us for 5 days of epic. And yeah, I mean, for $47, you're going to get activations, connect to your higher self. We're going to connect with star families. It's galactic transmissions. It's an incredible 5-day event just to come try it out and then decide if you want to go into those next steps as well.
Well, that sounds pretty awesome. I might do that myself.
You're more than welcome to.
All right. Love to connect with other people that are on the same path.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Thank you so much, Eesha. Thank you for joining me this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Margie. It's been wonderful.
All right. Eesha Patel. Golly, what a lady. We can all learn something from her, I am sure. Thank you for joining me this evening. I'll see you here again next Friday at 6 p.m. Central.